Well, that was awkward. We got completely booted off by live hangouts. So I had to start a second feed. That was quite the runaround here. Oh my goodness. What do you do when you are sewing away and all of a sudden the screen goes blank? So we're back. Those of you who are on the web page, well, I hope that you know enough to reboot the web page, click reload, so it will show two screens on the blog page now with this one embedded. And I'm going to just have to go along as if you know how to find me. And then we'll go. I was just sewing away, and then I looked up at the screen, and all was blank, and it said, you have been disconnected. I don't know why, but this is the internet. This is what keeps things interesting, and I am in a basement studio, and maybe there was too much traffic on live hangouts, and they decided that quilting was boring, and they would rather talk football. But I am back. So what I am doing is making some star point units, triangles. Now this is for a project, likely for a future magazine article, so I can't give out sizes, but you can do scrappy star blocks in any size that you want. So you don't have to do them the same size that I'm doing them. And if you like stars with scrappy centers, make some. It's a lot of fun. I was able to cut these out of my scraps, and I'm just piecing quarter square triangles. I've got my little sticky seam guide stuck right here, helping me keep my good 1/4 inch. And I've also got in my bag over here, this is the bins that I took with all of the tumblers cut are up at the cabin. So these are some extras I cut to travel with. And I'm just going to take a light one and a dark one. And I'm going to put them right sides together. Are you doing the tumblers along with me? I hope that you are. And if I don't hear my email jingling, that probably means that everybody will have thought that we were completely kaput, and they'll have to catch us in the archives. So I've got my little star point units here, and I'm going to press these open to the dark side, of course. Was I pressing? Nope, I'm pressing these towards the light side. I'm wrong. Sometimes you have, and pressing to the dark side is not always possible. Boy, I really see that we have an iffy internet connection today, and it could be that the problem is on my end with the internet and not with YouTube at all. But this is what I deal with. I live out in the country. It's not always the best connection. We pay for the best connection that we can possibly get. It's better than dial-up, but it is what it is. So yes, I'm trimmers. I always trim dog ears. And what I've got now is two pairs. What I've got now is two pairs of triangles that are facing one way and two pairs that are facing the opposite direction. I'm going to wiggle this internet cord. My laptop is hardwired. It's not Wi-Fi, but I'm going to wiggle it just to make sure the connection's good. And it's in there. So hopefully is okay. You know, we work Quilt-Cam as best as we can, and it's not always the greatest, but we take it where we can. So what I need to do now is add these little pairs to either side of two corner squares. Whoops, I need the opposite one. So these are going to go like just like this, so that those star points meet at the corner of this background square. And I'm going to sew those on. And I have two pairs of those to do. And I'm also out of bobbin thread. This is turning out to be one of those days. Hello, are you on candid camera? Yes, I think so. But I did wind a couple extra bobbins. So this is easy. One of the things I love about the class 15 machines, oh, this one, oh, it looks like it just broke the thread. And I'm not really interested in that black piece of black thread. I'm going to switch bobbins anyway. What I love about these is the huge amount of thread that is on them. It's a very, very large bobbin. It's the most high capacity bobbin that Singer did. You know, you have the featherweight bobbins and the 301 bobbins that are about half this high. So this holds twice the amount of thread as a featherweight or a 301. And it fits into the bobbin case much like it would off of a 301 or a featherweight, with the thread coming over the top like a toilet paper roll, over the top and into the case, through the slot, around the spring until you hear it click, and then we're ready to put it back into the machine. Pick this thread up and we'll be ready to sew. Boy, my phone is awfully quiet. I bet people have not known that we are back up and running, so maybe I need to put that back on Facebook. Let's see. Lost the feed, everything okay? Yes, but I can't answer that right now. Okay. So we're going to switch over here to Facebook and put out a blast saying we are back up and running. Yeah. Okay. I apologize for this. This is what it goes when it's a one-person organization. So we will do this really quickly. Refresh the page, comma, we are back up and running. Look for the second screen for the feed, period. Yeah. And then we just copy that text and go over to Open Studio and post it there. I feel bad, but I have no control if Hangouts is going to dump me. I was dumped by Google Hangouts, comma. Okay, so message is coming through. Let's see what that says. Coming in loud and clear in Ramsgate, UK. You went, but you are back and okay here on the south coast of the UK. Woohoo! Yay! That's from Catherine. Thanks for letting me know. We are quilters. Hear us roar. Okay. So now I don't have to worry about that. Thank you for Catherine letting me know that we are back. So if you're on the blog, you might find that there's two screens. There's the first one that ran for about 5 minutes until I was kicked off. And when you start another second, what is this? Google Plus Hangout. It's a Google Hangout. It's not going to be adjacent to the one that ended. They're two separate items. It's like posting two different pictures to the blog. So there's two screens on the blog, one below the other. So we are now on the second screen. Hopefully you were able to find me. Now we've got that bobbin thread back in there. Let's see about getting this going here. You know, sometimes life just loves to throw you whammies just to see if you're paying attention or not. Alrighty, and at this point, this is where I would also take this little, here's my little pair of leader and enders. We got this far, and this row, I'm pretty sure that this row is long enough that I don't need to add to it. Sometimes I just keep adding and adding and adding and adding and adding, and then I will unstitch where it's long enough, and then I'll have the next strip already partially pieced. But I think I'm going to just set this one aside and do some more. There's some cute stuff in here. So here's kind of a watery blue, and then here's part of a train. I love cutting the tumblers out of novelties. It gives little interesting things to look at. So we'll sew that pair. Okay, and these are pressed toward the corners, which are also light, which is why we needed this one pressed to the light. Sometimes you just can't press to the dark, or things won't nest nicely. Oh, we got a dog ear to get rid of there. So somebody asked me an email, it was either, I think it was just yesterday, the name of these scissors. And these are the Karen K. Buckley scissors. You can find them on her website. You may find them at a quilt shop near you. They come in 3 different sizes, and I love them because they are squishy. And they are either great for left-handers, great for right-handers, no matter how you pick them up, whether I pick them up this way or this way, your hands always fit. There's always room, and they're very, very comfortable. I also love the blades. They're serrated. So it really grabs the fabric while you're cutting and gives you a nice, clean, controlled cut. Speaking of which, we'll get rid of that dog ear. Dog ears are just one of those things I do not have room for in my life. They don't help me at all. So I get them out of there. Okay. All right, we take this to see how these quickly work. These tumblers join together so quickly in between everything, and I just add them to each other. I make pairs and then join pairs in between the seams, so the row just kind of grows itself as I sew. So here's these 2. I'll show you these. As soon as I get them out and get those dog ears right off, I usually just trim dog ears right over my trash can. There's a trash can right under here. So here's the 2 halves this way. So those are ready. Now we've got to do the other sides. And those are singles that are just like those were sewn on. These singles are sewn on the sides of squares. When I'm doing this, I want the point of that triangle to be halfway down the center of that square. So the dog ears extend equally in both directions. And I'm liking just fine how that poster tape has stuck my hotel room key down. Yeah, just making sure I'm doing this correct. And then I'm ready for another pair of tumblers. So you can see how quickly you go into these tumblers. And I think I'm going to just set them right here in my open drawer so it's easy for me to grab into that bag. That bag was portable when I was at retreat last weekend. Okay, this needs a little press. All righty, we'll sew this together. So I sew all of my pairs the same way. Now when you're working with the tumblers, one row will start with lights on the ends, and the next row will have darks on the ends, and they will have to mirror image each other. So some start with the small end at the top, the next row will have the large end at the top, the next row will have the small end at the top. So you have to kind of work with the pattern as these rows are being put together. All rows are not equal. Okay. And then here we are working straight across. So you can see that these ones have the big end. These ones have the big end down at the bottom. They just kind of flip-flop their way across the row. I am hoping that people are joining in with us. We're going to check the mail here. People need to know that they have to refresh the page. If they're on the page where the video stopped, they need to give it about 5 minutes and then refresh the page for the second feed to be embedded. She says, forgot to mention my name. I felt like I was actually talking to you in my sewing room, and that's me, Bella, in South Texas. So let's see what she was talking about further down. Where was she? I think I lost her. I lost the email that she was referring to. Is probably further down in the feed, but I'm going to start at the top to make sure that people are getting me. So this one's from Mary Ford, and she says, first time watching you and sewing at the same time. My leader and enders are going with you. Wonderful. Donna says, working on my twin sister quilt for my twin sister in Hawaii. She is doing a triathlon in Honolulu today, so I'm sending her vibes by working on her quilt. Go Debbie. So we're saying go Debbie, because she's doing a triathlon. I have a friend who loves to run, and I don't get it. Don't get it. And triathlons are not a spectator sport. I remember when my hubby did Ironman Canada, and he did complete it. He did complete. So I was really proud of him. Of course, this was in our 30s when we were much, much, much younger. But it's like, okay, there he goes on the swim. Wait about an hour. Here he comes out of the water. Okay, there he goes on the bike. Wait about 6 hours. Here he comes. Then I actually quilted was hand quilting a wall hanging while doing this. And then you leave the bike area, and the next thing is, okay, they're on their run, and it's a 26-mile run. So it's like, okay, wait 8 more hours. And oh, here they come. And it was really neat because both sons and I were there, and my oldest son, how old was Jason at the time? He might have been 13 or 14 when Dave did Ironman Canada. And when his dad was close enough to the finish line, he ran out to his dad, and they crossed the finish line together, and we have that in photographs. So that's really neat. So yes, go Debbie, go Debbie. We'll all say go Debbie. I think she's nuts, but go Debbie. All righty, back to the top. Catherine says, it seems the messages via Blogger are not getting through, but your email is working. A nice early evening here on the south coast of England. Nope, it got through here. She says, I will be trying to sort out the backing on a Starstruck quilt for my eldest grandson, who is a bit poorly at the moment. Oh, I'm sorry to hear that. And likely to have his heart surgery brought forward. So that's good. If they're moving his surgery up, he can get better sooner. That's good. So the quilt has been put on turbocharge. Thank you for doing this Quilt-Cam on what is your Sunday afternoon. It's nice to join you live whilst I am completely awake. And it says grin, 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 because she's one of those crazy women who will wake up at 3 o'clock in the morning just to catch Quilt-Cam. All right, Suzanne says, Seam Guide. Sue from Temperance, Michigan, glad to be watching live today. I'm working on my gifted white 816 because it is in the room with the computer, which is a good reason. I have a seam guide that came with this machine. Yes, I know about the screw-on ones. The problem is I do a lot of stitch and flip with corner squares. Those screw-on guides sit so high that they are in the way for me doing screw and flip. So, yeah, big faux pas. Sew and flip, because they have that little hump, okay? And the problem is too with the screws. I have actually, and and it was on a Bernina, because I used that same kind of screw-on seam guide on a Bernina. That over time, the screwing and unscrewing and readjusting and screwing and unscrewing and readjusting, not to mention that every time you move it out of the way, you have to then use your seam guide marker to remark your seam and do a test seam and make sure where it is. I actually stripped the holes in the bottom of the machine just by the action of screw on, screw off, screw on, screw off. So I really prefer not to use something that is screwed to the machine because it's in my way and I have to move it a lot. I know people have mentioned that Nova Montgomery, who I love dearly, in fact, she sent me an email just this week, let's do lunch in Houston, has a little, it's a clear seam guide thing that's adjustable, and it screws into the machine base with a hex wrench. Well, if you lose the hex wrench, you got to go find another one to undo it, to move it out of the way so that you can do stitch and flip. This is easier for me. This is just easier for me. So people keep coming up with other ideas for me to try. Believe me, I've tried them. I've done them all. I'm looking for something different, and I need something that is not so high profile that I can use it for doing stitch and flip on corners. When we sew the diagonal on a square and fold it over to have a triangle in the corner. Other things are too high. This is very inexpensive. It's sticking really well right now, although it's been less than 24 hours. And I don't have to move it out of the way ever. Not for string piecing, not for doing stitch and flip. It's fine just where it is. But be careful. Anybody who is doing a screw on, screw off thing on your machine bed, the more you screw it on, the more you screw it off, the more danger you have of stripping those threads inside those screw holes. Okay. All right. So we have here, Annika says, found you, Sweden here. No sewing tonight, but lots of crocheting. Nice to see you. It's really nice to hear from you, Annika. So glad you could join us from Sweden. That's very, very cool. Bernadette says, hello from Mayo, Ireland. She says, working on a few things at once. Quilt maker blocks and Wild and Goosey. And she signs her email Bernie, and I've only known her as Bernadette, but she's got some really cute stuff. Let's see if I turn that sideways. Will it go? Yes. Biggie size there. There's some Bernie blocks for you. Some itty bitty stars and some Wild and Goosey blocks framing around the outside. Isn't it fun? I just love the scraps. Just can't bother to throw away even the smallest piece. I may use it somewhere. Okay, Saska says, Sunday sewing. Putting borders on a quilt to long arm for a friend. Hubby went to drive the tractor for a while. So nice and quiet. You know, it's like, hubby, go find something to do. I want to sew. So here's her she's got her featherweight there, and she's getting some borders on a quilt for a friend before she sews it or puts it into the long arm. So glad that you're feeling well and up to your normal trick, Saska. One more, and then I'm going to sew. Marquet says, periwinkle hummingbird and tumbler blocks. She says, I'm working on 2 different blocks today. One is paper pieced periwinkle, or some call it hummingbird, and the other is a tumbler flag table runner. I have everything cut up and placed together, so now I just have to run them through the machine. And oh boy, you sure do. Those look gorgeous. And I love your little blue machine. That is so fun. Let's see if I can get this biggie sized here. So she's got 3 photos there. The top one is tumblers, and then the second one is the blue, beautiful blue machine she's sewing on. And then on the bottom is those hummingbird star blocks. I've heard them called both as well. Periwinkle star is what I've heard it called most. Hummingbird, I've heard it called like in the 1930s era, but those are absolutely gorgeous. All right, I'm going to set this down a little bit. It's also all of this excitement with running around trying to get up a second feed has brought on the hot flashes like nobody's business. Okay, so here I am just finger pressing. I do a lot of finger pressing at the machine when I'm working with small pieces, simply because adding an iron can distort this whole shape, and I want things to stay shape. But you see how these 2 dog ears stick out on either side? I'm going to trim those even with the side of the square. I know some people may trim them even with this point here, but then I'd still have some sticking out. I want it even with the sides of the square, so that's what I'm going to do. And these are just so great. This blue handles, there's the little yellow handles are great for applique, and they're very tiny. Do I have those in here? Nope. And then the big purple handles are great for bigger things, but I tend to use these blue ones the most at the machine. Okay, so I've got those dog ears trimmed. And I trim dog ears every step because I don't want any guesswork. I want to know that next piece is going to go. Speaking of next piece going to go, did I lose 4 triangles? Or 2 more triangles? Where did they go? So guess what? Maybe they're in the bucket. I thought I pulled them all out. Are they in here? I cut out several sets, but I'm 2 triangles short of a star. So you know what that means? We set this one aside and we start another one. So much for that. Okay. Do we have 8? We have 8. 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8. Yes. Well, that was crummy. They've got to be here somewhere. We'll just set that aside. We'll go for the orange leopard print instead. Leopard must speak, enunciate. Okay, back to doing mirror image because 2 need to go this way, 2 need to go this way. And I'm going to go a little faster. I'm going to continue to sew on to, do I have 4 corners for these? Yes. Isn't that frustrating? You think you've got it all and then 2 pieces go missing? What's with that? will get us back to the same spot, lickety split here. Okay. And the tumbler pair goes on. So as I'm working my way up the strip, I kind of look for pieces that might look good next to what I put previously. So in other words, I'm not putting 3 blues in a row. So I kind of build my pairs discerningly. Of course, when you go to add this strip to the main quilt, you may find that you have reds and blues in the same place. All right. These were pressed to the light side. Okay, tell me what is wrong with this strip. I was supposed to have 2 light and 2 dark. I am not doing really great today, but it's a short seam, so we can reverse it really quickly. What a joke. Okay. I like to rip by slicing the thread on every 3rd stitch, and then you can just lift them apart. It's pretty quick that way. And we're going to sew the proper side. Is it any wonder I lost my Fitbit at all? Is it? Is it? I think not. I think this is just the way my life goes. So as I'm working on something like this, I will ask myself, what color have I not already put in here? I've done purple, blue, and orange. So something that I have not, and I'll probably shoot it to the other side of the color wheel. So I've got colors that are fairly bright here, but what I don't see is any green, any black, any brown, anything from that side. So we dig into the magic bin here. That's fairly ugly. Okay, this is really ugly. Okay, ugly. That's probably why it's a tumbler in the first place. How about, okay, here's an antique gold. That'll work. And old Christmas print as the light. Christmas can go in everything, so it can be Christmas in our hearts all year round. Okay. So we're back to where we were. Pressing these. And they were being pressed toward the light side, if I remember correctly. That's so things nest when the block comes together. So here's one thing that I struggle with when it comes to writing pattern directions. Maybe you've never given it a thought, but before you even start to sew the quilt together, you have to think about how you're going to explain to people how to press it so it has maximum nesting ability. And there are some things, while it may nest really well while you're making the block, then you go to put those blocks together, block to block, seams may not nest when you join blocks. And people really get kind of unglued if they can't nest absolutely everything. So at this point, I'm like, okay, this quilt requires sashings. Or sometimes I just say, you know, pin to match it and press that next seam open. Sometimes you just have to work with it. Sometimes you can snip a little bit into the seam allowance and flip something. If it's a long enough seam, I'll let that seam gently twist and mash it flat with the iron when I sew those blocks together. But there is no way to have all quilts nest all the time. And at the same time, I don't want to press every seam open all the time. I leave that for strategic places where nothing else works. So how important is it to you as a quilter that all seams nest all the time? And are you limiting the quilts that you're going to make just solely based on the fact that they must nest? Let me know. Drop me an email. Okay, adding second corners here. We're back to making progress. Again, I need to overlap those dog ears equally on either side. I just remembered I was going to put in the blog post that the traditional name of this star block, if it had a solid center, it's called Aunt Eliza's star. So if you look it up somewhere, do a Google search, you may be able to find one. Okay, so at this point, this is what I usually do. I've sewn this pair. Do I want it here? Does it look good here next to this orange, or is it two busy things with two busy things? I also have the option of moving it over here, which I think is better. So that's what I'm going to do. And I just tend to work either side of the row of tumblers. Just make sure that you're putting a fat end to a skinny end. Okay, and then these guys go this little machine just sews so well. There's no belt sound at all because it's gear driven. Can you see the box here now that we moved the camera earlier? This is her motor, her gears right here. So you can see it looks like a little pot that's been stuck over everything, and it directly drives the wheel. So there's no belt at all. In other words, this is a machine that I could not take the motor off and treadle because there is no belt groove whatsoever. It's got a potted motor. Okay. I'd like to get at least one block done today with this crazy Quilt-Cam. Okay, again, I am trimming dog ears. And these are the little side units. They kind of look like a little house with a roof. Make sure those dog ears are off. And I've got these. Okay, another tumbler required. Boy, is that one really ugly. It's really ugly. Sometimes I have a hard time making myself sew in the ugly ones. But you know, once they're in the quilt, you don't even notice. Okay. Okay, so we're that far. Let me check back in because I do hear there's some buzzing going on here. Let's check in and see who's with us. Utah says, nice to see you on Quilt-Cam again. It's always a great pleasure. I'm working on this quilt now. Only easy and fast done. Christmas present for our son's girlfriend. Freddie is my new quilting buddy and little helper. Have him since 5 weeks. And isn't he cute? What a sweetheart. So she's got this lovely strippy quilt that is going to be a gift for her son's girlfriend for Christmas. And there's her new puppy right there on the quilt. He's beautiful, Utah. And she is also, come on, go back. She says, it says, greetings, Utah, on meinem iPhone gesendet. And did she say where she was from? Oh, it says hi from Germany at the top. Beautiful. Michelle Collins says, hi from Australia. It's 5 a.m. in the morning. See, there are crazy quilters everywhere. The Australians are getting up early. She says, I normally get up at 4. So actually she slept in an hour. It just happened to notice that Quilt-Cam was on when I got up this morning and was checking Facebook. It's nice to catch you live. I have been busy through the day, so haven't been able to watch live before. I quite often listen to your old Quilt-Cams while I sew. Well, that's nice. At the moment, I am working on putting together a group project quilt, which we will raffle to raise funds for our Friday craft group. Everyone has been making heart blocks of various sizes, and I am putting them together. And she shares a photo. See, I can turn this sideways to get it biggie. And that's going to be the fun part, getting all of those various heart blocks sashed and sized and in some kind of arrangement where, and I love that. It's like a puzzle. It's like, how do we make this puzzle work? We can add some checkerboards. We can add some block pieces. We can add some strips and make it all fun. But those are adorable. I love that's going to be really unique. So good luck with your fundraiser. And I'm glad you were able to join us live early this morning. This one is from Betsy, who says, been enjoying Quilt-Cam, but sadly, I suddenly lost you. So Betsy, if you lose me, give me 5 minutes, because that's about what it takes me to start a new feed, get the code, go over to the blog, embed it into the blog, hit publish, come over here and start the feed. So anytime that you lose the feed, give me 5 minutes and come back and refresh your page and you'll be able to find that. She says, it's a rainy day here in Western Massachusetts. I'm sewing a checkbook cover for a quick gift. Wonderful. So this is Lilac Joan. Hi, Joan. How are you? She says, can you explain how you have the machine threading using a cone? I really can't see it. Well, if I move it, I'm going to get my thread all bungled up. But this is my cone thread, and it's just on a holder. If I move my IKEA light out of the way, I can lift this up. So it's just on a cone holder, and when you use thread on a cone, you have to lift it off of the cone. It has to lift up high enough, and then it follows the regular path of threading. So you have to put the thread cone, I put it kind of to the rear right of the machine, so it's pretty much in line with the spool pin, but a little further back. So the thread comes off and still comes through the same thread guide, which I just came out of. And of course you have to watch cords and all that kind of stuff. So, whoops. And be careful that you don't pull the rod right out of the holder. So this is an industrial holder. It's very heavy. It's on a metal base. Some of the plastic ones are so stupid anymore that they don't even have, I mean, even the little hook that comes up is plastic and it's wibbly wobbly, and if you try to adjust it, it'll snap in half. So I stick with the industrial ones. But the thread just follows the same thread path. It's just lifted up off of the cone a little bit higher. So instead of the thread turning around on a spool, the thread just lifts off the cone one layer at a time, and then it's fed to the machine. I hope that makes more sense. Okay, so we are going to add 2 more corners here, and that's the wrong one. Okay, I see what I did. I did 2 mirror image. So this guy, it's a puzzle. This guy goes here, and there's a dog ear I need to get off. I use cone thread a lot. It's very economical to buy thread that way. And I have a lot of thread. I started long arm quilting in 1995. And when you buy thread, you buy it on a 6,000 yard cone. And you may have this shade of gray and this shade of taupe and this shade of gray blue and this shade of gray green and whatever to blend in with people's quilts. And maybe you'll never use that color for machine quilting again. So I piece with it. It's a little bit heavier thread than Aurifil or those really fine piecing threads, but I just compensate for the thickness of my thread with my seam. So I always sew a couple of pieces, press it to one side and measure, and then adjust until my unit is measured what it needs to be. You could use any thickness of thread if you just compensate for it in your seam. At least I do, because I'm not going to let that thread go to waste. It's good 100% cotton thread. Okay, yellow onto the other end. I don't like that there either. I'm going to sew it anyway. Okay, so here, press that out. One goes under, one goes out. So you just have to, back to pressing, I always work with it to see what is going to give me the best result. So on this one, I'll show you the back side of this block quarter here. I sewed this star point section on, press that toward the corner. So this star point section on, press that toward the star point. So you can see that they go in opposite directions. But if I press this way, that's going to give me a big knot right here. And same thing, if I press this out, I'd still have more thicknesses to deal with. So I usually press whichever is the path of least resistance and find out the best way to do it. Sometimes the best way is pressing toward the light. Okay, so I have 2 sides, 2 corners, and a center. And if I think that the camera's in a good enough spot that you can see me lay this in here. So I'm just going to pick up one of these string blocks that I've already trimmed. It'll go like that. Okay. And I think instead of tumblers, I don't have enough variety, I'm going to start using other star point sets as the leaders and enders so I can make some more progress here. We'll pick up this green one. So leaders and enders can be anything. They can be part of a border. They can be part of a second quilt. They can even be parts of the next blocks for the quilts that you're already working on. It's growing. Okay. 2 star points on. I'm going to add another set. And I have a lot of fun deciding what colors star points are going to be, what color the background's going to be, and what crumb block I'm going to use with it. Okay, I'm going to send another pair of star points through as the leader ender here. So if those are pressed towards the light, these need to go toward the center, I believe. Yes. And that was why these were pressed toward the light, to help distribute that fullness. I love to feel those seams nest before I sew over them. Once those are locked in place, then I can work with anything in between those. Okay. Okay, so these ones get the light on the top. I was just checking. Two with the light on the top, 2 with the dark on the top. Okay, getting there, starting to look like a star. This seam I'm going to press out towards the corner because that's the way that it wants to lie. You see it's already turning that way? And if I folded it down this way, I'm going to get some really thick bumpy spots. It wants to go that way. I'm liking it. I'm liking it. It's cute. This neutral plaid that's on here as background I have had in my stash for forever. I think it's another one of those pieces that came from my mother-in-law's stash. There was yards and yards of it. Almost done here. Let it be known that Bonnie made 1 block during the entirety of Quilt-Cam because she lost pieces. And Quilt-Cam died. But we have a block. And I'm happy to say it's mostly square. I do get rid of dog ears on the outside. And before I go squaring anything down, I look at all of the star points. I want to make sure that I leave 1/4 inch above these star points. Now, if some place is less than 1/4 inch, That's going to happen occasionally. Let's see. Okay, so here's one. All the others are fine. This one's a little shy of a 1/4 inch. I will look at my seam first to see if I can check the seam. If my seam got a little skinny, which it did, the seam got a little bit skinny here, I would rather fix the seam than go chopping everything off to be sure that I'm going to lose that 1/4 inch there for that star point. If it's not the seam, I will leave it just as is. I know this is short, and when I join it to whatever I want to join it to, I will leave it just a little bit away from the edge of the fabric I'm sewing it to, so that my seam will cross in the place that it needs to go, and then it will be fine. I don't want to go trimming everything down to that, because then I will definitely lose all of my seams in here. So I think there's enough. It's a little bit short. That seems a little bit not quite, and it's already, that seam's already sewn over. If I make more of a seam, it's going to fall a little bit shorter. So I think I'm going to leave that one just as is. But be careful. Remember, there is no such thing as squaring up. There's only squaring down, and you've got to leave something for the needle to bite on outside all of these points. So instead of squaring down, I'll just let it float a little bit away from what I sew it to. It'll be just fine. Okay, I am sweating to beat the band. Yes, Hot Flash Central. Okay, back to the inbox. This is Carolyn Sullivan on pressing. She says, working on my remake ×4 for my 3 children of my very first patched quilt, Lady of the Lake, and pressing the Leader Ender project. And she's in Cincinnati, Ohio, and we can see her pressing away there. So there's pressing things going on in Cincinnati. Glad you could join us, Carolyn. That's quite an undertaking. Jeanette says, I am working on burp cloths and other baby gifts today. Have you tried the Sew Very Smooth seam guide? No, I have not. I'm not interested. I'm just not interested. This is working fine for me. See, they want to fix me. Everybody thinks they've got something better. They want to fix me. Thank you, but no. Cheryl West says, Quilt-Cam. I'm watching from El Paso, Texas. I have the same sewing machine and love it. Is your thread, by chance, missing going through the top thread guide? No, it's right here. It's here in the top thread guide. She says, I'm working on tumblers as I watch. Thanks for a Sunday Quilt-Cam. Anxiously waiting for new mystery this November. I'm almost half done with my piecing. Almost half done. I'm excited about it. That's been my cabin project, and it's at the cabin living there. So hopefully I'll have a chance to get to it shortly. If I leave early October for a Caribbean cruise that I'm teaching on, and when I get back, I will need some time to finish putting that together so that I can really determine what the yardage is. At this point, I have not decided what I want to do for borders, and that could affect the yardage. So I may need some extra time. I know we were planning on mid-October for having all of the yardage requirements out. I may need a week or so more just so that I can get that top to completion, so I know exactly what the yardage is and there is no whammies. So when I design, even though I do use EQ software to figure out, okay, what does this block look like if I put it with this one, or what if I color this way, or what does it look like straighter on point or with sashings, I often don't decide on my borders until the entire quilt top is together, because things in real size can change perspective versus looking at what's on a computer screen. So that's where the mystery is right now. It's still a mystery to me. I hope that you'll join me in this year's mystery. It's going to be a lot of fun. Okay. Pamela Casey says, it's my first live Quilt-Cam. Glad to finally get to join you live in spite of technical problems. I am cutting for my Tumblr challenge today. I am also reviving scraps for Wild and Goosey. I cannot wait for the mystery this year. Thanks for all you do. And that's Pam from California. Glad she's joining us. Nancy says, settled in for some Sunday sewing. Oh, Nancy, that looks so good. She says, spending the afternoon with so excited to be spending the afternoon with everyone. Dinner is simmering in the oven, and I'm working on some stash, putting 2.5-inch strips to good use. So she's Got two photos here. First of all, everybody say yum, because that's what's cooking in her oven. That looks so good. Fall cooking is right around the corner, and I am a crock pot girl, and I love my crock pot, and I love soups and stews and things like that, hearty for fall and winter. That looks delicious. And this is working on with her 2.5-inch strips. Love those colors, putting those together. You know, if you have leftover ends of jelly rolls, I know some people say, I use this jelly roll, I have these bits and pieces left over, I don't know what to do with them. Separate them. They don't have to stay as one collection. They can just be a color. So put all the blue ones together, put all the yellow ones together, all the green ones together. After you've made that one quilt and you've got the leftovers, let it just be a color and start putting those colors together with other things, and you'll be happy with those. They don't have to stay a collection. All right, Paula Joe says, ooh, my newest baby. That is beautiful, Paula. She's showing us her treadle machine. See if I can turn that sideways here and biggie size it just a little bit. In a beautiful cabinet. She's got a brand new treadle machine she's learning to use. I think the label on that, the name on that one said free, which means it was not free. But it's absolutely beautiful. Gorgeous cabinet. I love those rounded drawers. Okay, and Deb Winchester, hi Deb. She says, I'm hand stitching on my soon-to-be daughter-in-law's bridal veil. How lovely! The mother-in-law is making the bridal veil. No scrappy bits on it. Well, that's a good thing. She will wear it just before Rick and I set sail with you to the Caribbean. That's counting down. You know, when I get back from this trip in Missouri, I have just like 3 days before we leave on this Caribbean cruise. It is that close around the corner, and I'm really, really excited to be seeing everybody. I've got 50 quilters joining me on that cruise. Speaking of cruises, we've just added a cruise for Alaska for July of 2016. So that's less than a year from now. And we've got room for 120 quilters on this cruise. And the spots are going to go very, very quickly. It's a special cruise. We've got 4 instructors. So you'll have a lot of fun going on. Very, very talented instructors and a lot of fun. I've cruised many places. When I go to the Caribbean, things I have to worry about: sunburn, sunscreen, sand, heat, sticky, sweaty, and people who really should not be wearing spandex above a certain size. But we won't go there. Yeah, they do have the Speedo contest by the pool, but we'll be sewing. The difference between cruising hot, sweaty places, even though how gorgeous it is, you know, we just long to get away to those hot places when it's cold in the winter. Likewise, in the summer, we love to get cool, refreshing places. If you are one of those who loves to keep your jeans on, or maybe a pair of capris and a t-shirt and tennis shoes, instead of worrying about flip-flops and sunburn and suntan and pedicure and too many people and all that going on, the Alaska cruise may be perfect for you. We set sail, I believe it's July, is it July 8th? Something like that, from Seattle. And we're taking the inside passage all the way up to Juneau, and then we come back to Skagway, and then we go to Tracy Arm, which is, it's 26 miles of the most gorgeous scenery that you've ever seen. And the channel is like this narrow. How they fit these mega ships up this channel is just amazing. But that's the Tracy Arm of and fjords, and we see go up to the glacier there and then come back, and then we'll be stopping back in Victoria, BC before we go back to Seattle. What I'm most excited about, Victoria in July. Everything will still be blooming. It'll be gorgeous. The last time I went, I was not able to make it to Bouchard Gardens because time was limited. We didn't get in till afternoon, and we only had till evening. We get in the morning, and we have till like 8:30 at night. We have the whole day to do what we want in Victoria, BC. So if you want more information on that, I'd love to have you join me. Click the cruise, the Alaska Cruise 2016 tab at the top of my blog at quiltville.blogspot.com. It's amazing. It's just going to be amazing. And think cool, cool, cool. Wonderful temperatures. If you live in a hot and sweaty climate, like if you're in Florida, if you're in South Georgia, if you're on the East Coast, if you're in Michigan, it gets hot. If you're in Idaho, it gets 100 plus in July in those areas. Think about coming on an Alaskan cruise with me. Hubbies can come. Yes, they can come. Friends can come. Siblings can come. It's just going to be a wonderful time. So please click it. On that page, you will find I have embedded videos of the different places that we will be seeing. Even if you're not coming, you'll want to click that video about the Tracy Arm and the glacier there, because it's just amazing. It's a 15-minute video that will take you up that glacier and show you what we're going to be seeing. So I'll plan on seeing you July in Seattle on a cruise to Alaska. Okay, back to this one more, and then I'm going to sew. We got a late start, but we're doing our best that we can. Okay, Christy Jones says, hello from Houston. I'm so glad to see I'm not the only one with whoopsies today. You know, we love whoopsies. We just gotta keep our sense of humor, because you know that's just the way it is. I was making headway on my wall quilt last night and found out that sharp geometrics that are required did not materialize. Spent the morning ripping out. We'll get back to it after Quilt-Cam. Love the new to you machine. She says, thanks for brightening my day. So that's from Christy from Houston. Lorraine says, thank you from Brooksville, Florida. I'm working on Jackson's 9-patch. It's such a fun little quilt to make. Quilt-Cam and your enthusiasm got me motivated. So glad on a Sunday afternoon. You know, Sunday afternoons when the boys were growing up were my favorite time to take that afternoon nap. After Sunday dinner, the boys would go down for a nap, and so will I. And I miss my Sunday afternoon naps, but Sunday afternoons have always been my favorite time of the week, especially when I'm home, because I don't do work on a Sunday that I'm home. I just don't. And it's wonderful to be able to relax and to spend that time with you. And glad to have Lorraine joining us all the way from Brooksville, Florida today. Angie says, Wild and Goosey, where can I get the Wild and Goosey pattern, please? If you are a member of my Quiltville's Open Studio on Facebook, you will find a link to the Quiltmaker website in the files section of our page. Now, you need to be on a regular computer to do this. You can't access the files via mobile device, but there's a link to where Quiltmaker has that PDF posted, and that's where you will find just the block pattern, not the quilt pattern. The quilt that I made with the blocks, and I can't wait for you to see it, will be released in my next book, and also is previewed in my online class with Craft University Online. Now that's another segue into that, because registration is going on right now. There's a code that you can enter for 30% off of the cost of my online course. It's a 6-week course, 6 segments. Each segment is at least an hour long. Some ran over a little bit. We just went by content and the time that it takes to present the content. We didn't go by, okay, we have this much time on the clock, which was very refreshing, because some patterns just take more time to explain than others and to demonstrate than others. When you go to my blog at quiltville.blogspot.com, you will find the photo for the online workshop at the upper left-hand corner of the page. And it will give you the code that you will need to put in. If you click that photo, it'll take you to the sign-in page on Craft University Online. So you sign in, be sure to put that code in to save your 30%. Now this course starts in October, excuse me. And so registration will be open only until the course starts. So if you're planning on it, you need to get it in there. Now the regular price for this 6-week course is $129, but you're getting $30 off with that code. So the cost for the 6-week course is $99. And if you divide that by 6, that's 6 workshops, 50 cents a piece. That's cheaper than you can see me anywhere that I teach. And if you're not going to be, this might be something that you want to consider. Now, the best part is about Craft University Online is that you will be able to download these courses, the videos, to your computer, to your iPad, to whatever, and save them so that you will have them forever. And once you've downloaded them, you don't even need to be connected to the internet to watch them. So if you take your laptop out into the boony land while your husband is sitting in a tree waiting to hunt deer, you can still watch your videos from the car or whatever. So they are yours to keep. One thing that I recommend that people do when they download something to their computer like this is burn it off onto a CD, or to upload it to a cloud system where they can access it. Dropbox.com is a really good one, and you can get a free account with Dropbox.com to save things like that. Also, when you order digital patterns from my website, you'll notice it says on the digital downloads page to please consider saving these digital files off of your computer, because if your computer crashes, I can't just continue to give them to you free forever. So on my website, I will replace files for you up to 1 year. But if you come to me a year and a half from now and say, I purchased this pattern from you, blah, 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 and my computer crashed and you didn't save it offline as a file, then I can't help you. I can't help you forever, because I'm not Apple and I don't have my own cloud. So that's the way that goes. But I hope that you will consider joining my online course with Quiltmaker. We had a lot of fun doing it. We have some really great quilts to share with you that go along with the blocks that we teach from my Addicted to Scraps column, that teach you many of the different techniques that I use when I quilt. All of the hints, helps, and tricks that I can throw in there are in those courses. And then I get to live on your computer or on your mobile device and in your cloud forever. Won't that be a good thing? So check that out. We have here, Kathy Mackey says, good afternoon, fall is in the air here in Victoria, BC. Did you hear, Kathy? I'm coming to Victoria next July. I will have all day. We should plan something, don't you think? Don't you think we should get your quilty ladies together and who knows, talk to me about a workshop or something. That would be fun. She says, I'm cutting for Celtic Solstice this afternoon. I always feel like I'm always a year or two behind everyone else, but that's life, right? And she's there and she's showing us her cutting stuff, and she's got us right there on her tablet propped up where she can see what we're up to, and she is a cutting fool. So Kathy, when was the last time you changed your rotary blade? If it's been a while and it's skipping and giving you fits, put a new blade in. I try to do that regularly. Exciting. I like your space. Wonderful to see those colors. All right, we're going to sew. I want to get this block put together as quickly as I can. I'm just checking in here. Remember, I'm pressing to the light side, and I just pressed one to the dark. That's such a habit. Okay. All righty, so we've got those, and now I can sew some on the sides of squares. And we're going to quickly put this block together because I'd like to have 2 blocks to show for Quilt-Cam today. So again, I'm centering these on the sides of the squares. I'm going to do 2 of those. I like to play a game with myself to see what I can do to keep the piecing as continuous as possible. Okay, so those 2 are sewn, and we have 4 of these, 2 one way, 2 the other way. And then these are also added to 2 sides of a square. But the star point fabric has to go up against the square. Okay, we'll just keep doing these the same way, so I'm not working these in mirror image of each other. Doggy. Okay. It makes me wonder how. Have you ever watched a live show when they're singing and dancing on stage at the same time? How do they keep it all synchronized? How do they not have to stop and say, wait a minute, I forgot that step, or you know, your feet are doing one thing and your mouth is doing another thing, or you're playing an instrument and you're singing and trying to remember lyrics. Trying to sew and talk at the same time is kind of along the same way. Okay. Overlapping dog ears. Same distance in either direction. Try to center that point. I like this lime green. This is going to be fun too. Okay. Dog ears off, always, always, always. Your patchwork will improve so much if you just take the time to snip those dog ears. Okay. Adding the other one here. One thing I'd like to know, and this is just out of curiosity, because I have been book writing all week, and writing for different publishers, they can have their own ways that they like to do things. I know how I work. So if I look at a pattern and it has this, say this star block, and then this alternate block, and then here's the pieced border, when I'm going through a pattern, I like to have the cutting for each section within that section. So this is what I need to make the stars. Okay, so cut the pieces and make the stars. This is what I need to cut the to make the alternate blocks. Okay, cut that, make the alternate blocks. This is what I need to cut for the border. Cut that, make the border. Now, some publishers will put all of the cutting information at the front of the pattern, and they will say 2.5 squares, 2.5 inch squares, piece A, 2.5 by 4.5 inch rectangles, piece B, such and such half square triangles, piece C, piece E, piece D, piece F, whatever. And then you get further into the pattern and it will say join an F to a G and add to an M. And then what do you have to do? You have to go back to the front of the pattern, so you're flipping pages, to come back here to this cutting list to find all the way around down the bottom and find out what that piece was. I would love an honest opinion. Does that drive you nuts or what? Because it drives me nuts. And I'm dealing with some of this right now. And it's not working for me as I'm having to write it that way, because even as I'm writing that way, I'm having to flip back and go, wait a minute, what piece was this? Oh, this was piece C, and it's joined to piece L. And I'd rather say join a 2.5 inch dark square to a light half square triangle, you know, and have things be a little bit more descriptive. So when you are reading a pattern, tell me how you like the cutting to be. Do you like it all in a chart at the beginning? Do you cut up absolutely everything for this quilt before you get started? Or do you prefer your cutting to be for each unit within each section of the quilt? Let me know. I'm really interested in knowing what you think. As for me, I don't like a lot of page turning when I'm reading a pattern. So even if something says, you know, see page XX for our method on speedy triangles, make 74 speedy triangles, you're still having to flip pages back to go check what that is. I find that just really, you know, not so user friendly. Okay. Trying to keep this as continuous as possible. So I'm trimming dog ears as we go, and I'm going to pick up a center square. Is there something with a limey green in it that I can use? Both of these are about the same, so we'll do this one. Okay. Adding the sides. And do we dare think that this star is all complete and all of the, or all the kit's pieces are here. Okay. Start the star points for the next one as the leaders and enders. Two star points on. A little bit of a thready bit there. I love small blocks like this because they enable me to use up small hunks and chunks of fabrics. And I love it when each block is different than the next one. And all of the colors are so fun to play with. This one's going to have a little bit of a bulky spot, but that's just the way we deal with crumb blocks. 4 points on. Now we're going to add, oh, guess what? We have to press these first. And remove dog ears. You notice that I'm not ironing these. I just finger press them because all of this here is bias. And as soon as I put a hot iron to that, I'm going to end up with a triangle that has a baggy bottom on it. And I'm not happy when that happens. So just a finger press on the seam is all that I need until I get it attached to the block, and then I can iron press it. These little pairs of triangles work really well as leaders and enders. I'm liking this one. 6 points on. Yay! And we've been here more than an hour and a half, but it doesn't count because we had to reset and start the second feed. So I want to thank you for persevering with me. And those who gave up, well, they'll have to catch it in the archives. But remember, if something ever goes wrong like this, unless it's a complete power outage, give me 5 minutes, come back to the blog, and refresh. If you refresh, then both screens will show up on the page, and you won't skip a beat. There are just things beyond our control. One more little seam here. There's a crumb block in the middle, so it's a little bit thick, but we can deal. Yes, we can deal. Okay. 1, 2, 3, 4. So then we get one of these. We just keep building. All right. 8 points. Let's press. I'm just using some pressure. I'm making sure that there's no tucks as I'm pressing down, but I'm not really wiggling the iron. I'm just moving it across the block. We just want some flat places, and you'll notice I did not use steam because steam is the one thing that, first of all, if you have not pre-washed your fabrics, that's going to instantly shrink your block. I want to wait until absolutely the entire quilt top is sewn together so things measure right before I do anything with steam. But it'll also change the shape of your block. So here I am removing dog ears. I'm watching for that 1/4 inch outside all of my points. So there we go. Happy, happy lime green with a very fun crumb block in the center. It looks lighter as I'm looking at the screen here. But that green really in person does look darker than it does there. So we've done that one. And we did this one, and we did most of this one that has 2 points missing somewhere. There may be another scrap of that gold on my cutting table, so maybe they're just still on my cutting table. We'll see. But I want to check in and just see a couple more that have come in. I could hear the phone vibrating while I've been sitting here. And then we will end this wonderful Quilt-Cam time. Now, I am gone to Missouri for, gosh, it's almost a couple of weeks. I'm hitting 4 venues, and each venue has several days with me. So be watching the blog, and I will let you know when our next Quilt-Cam is. I'm hoping to get one more in before we do the Caribbean cruise. If not, of course, it'll be after the cruise, but keep watching. And I'm thinking this time, you know, I am frugal to a fault, and on previous cruises, I was always too cheap. And it's serious, I'm too cheap to pay for internet. But my husband came back from the accountant saying, you don't have enough business expenses. You need to spend the money and have some business expenses. So guess what the first thing out of my mouth was? Okay, then, I'm having internet on the cruise. So you may hear from me while we are doing this Caribbean thing. Won't that be fun? Okay, so we have Christy Jones says, I'm with you on instructions. When you only have small increments of time, your way is better because you can see progress quickly, and you can also pull stash and buy what you need when ready. Just my opinion. This is the one thing that she doesn't like about other publishers, is that they'll put all of the cutting at the front of the pattern, and you have no idea what fabrics these need to be, or where they're going to end up in the block. And so she prefers to have the cutting for each section with the section. So that, thank you for your opinion. I really value that, because I'd like to talk to the powers that be and see if I can do it that way. She says, I like the way you, this is from Bets, who says, I like the way you do it. I do not like a cutting chart, as I get lost. I like the way you did the mystery quilt last year, as it was my first ever mystery quilt. The chart drives me mad, and I just want to not do that quilt. Okay, that's a very strong opinion. Thank you, thank you. So Marquez also says, I like the first way that you told us about. Like you, I hate keeping turning pages back and forth. That was confusing just hearing it. And with my brain, if I had to do it like that, it would quickly become a UFA. Oh, love your new star blocks. And wasn't it sad to hear that Eleanor has to have open heart surgery next week? Yes, prayers for her and her family. It's sad to hear, but it's also encouraging to hear. Eleanor Burns, if you haven't heard, I mean, she's just a lovely lady. I am so happy to call her a real life friend. I'm always happy to teach with her when we're on the same venues, or if we're on a trip together. She's having open heart surgery this week. She didn't disclose what the problem is, but the good thing is that they've discovered it. And they're able to go in there and fix it. So we want to keep Eleanor alive and ticking and quilting for a lot longer. So this is a very good thing that she's going in. We don't know the extent of the surgery or how long she'll be down, but just please keep Eleanor Burns in your thoughts and prayers over the next couple of weeks. And I will let you know what I find out when I find out. It's a scary thing. And we look at people who've been quilting as long as Eleanor has, and how long she has been our guru for as long as she has, and we realize that 20 years from now that could be me, 30 years from now that could be me, 5 years from now that could be me. And so I'm very encouraged and happy that when she noticed there was a problem, she went and saw about it. She's now under the care of people who are very qualified, very skilled, and can take care of what the problem is. So we hope to hear good things that she's on the mend soon. So thank you for reminding us for that. We'll keep Eleanor in our thoughts and prayers. Rain says from Germany, Rain here from Nordheim. She says, I enjoy your live Quilt-Cam so much, sitting on my couch and finishing some little turn top boxes as prizes for our vaulting tournament in October. Sewing with you is so much fun, and work goes quickly. So we have Oktoberfest and we have vaulting. Hopefully we don't do the two together, because you should never drink and vault. So she says, I am so proud that I finished part 1 of my big hexie project. 50,000 quarter-inch hexies are ready to be gathered. into a king size quilt. Holy cow. 50,000. The last 5 hexes to fill in the 50,000 are right here on her photo. So this is from Rain, and she's got, oh my goodness, those are eensy beensy tiny, and you can see if you look really carefully, she's got them all skewered together. So those things that look like little spools of color, those are actually hexes that are pushed onto pins to keep them all skewered together, and she's basting the last 5. I hope that you will share with us what design you're going to be putting these hexes in, because they are just absolutely gorgeous, and I can just imagine 50,000. I can't even count. You know, when I do mystery quilts, or I do hexagon quilts, or quilts with a ton of pieces, I don't count those pieces. I just do them until they're done. And then at the end, I might count them, but usually it's somebody who has counted them for me who says, did you know there's over 4,000 pieces? Well, 4,000 is nothing compared to 50,000 quarter-inch hexagons. That's going to be absolutely beautiful. Well, folks, it's that time. We've had our round 2 of Quilt-Cam after round 1 failed, and I've accomplished 2 blocks. We've had a lot of fun today. I've enjoyed the chit chat. I've enjoyed your comments and your thoughts and your opinions. If you have an opinion on patterns and how you like the cutting to proceed, please let me know. It's something that I really need to take up with the powers that be on how I write in the future, because just writing it has been excruciating. Anyways, my best stitches to you and yours. Be watching the blog for the next announcement on when we'll be able to do Quilt-Cam. If it's still early where you are, or if it's late and you still feel like sewing for another hour, go on ahead. There's nobody here to stop you. Make some progress, have some fun, and I'll catch you next time here from the basement in Quiltville. I'm Bonnie Hunter, signing off. Bye-bye, everybody.